So good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot for registering and joining our event dedicated to additive manufacturing. So the name of our event is Transforming Industry with Additive Manufacturing, because we know that additive is actually doing it, right? So this event was organized with the contribution of the efforts of different European collaborative projects. So we have at least partners from 4 different consortium, all of them dedicated to deliver work in additive manufacturing. Some of them more on the research side, some of them more on the educational side, but all of them in trying to prepare the workforce and delivering the needs of industry for the implementation of these so attractive processes. Sorry about that. Okay, so just going briefly through our agenda. It's not big, so we will have 2 different slots. We will start with the slot dedicated to women in additive manufacturing, a roundtable of a discussion of how it's like to be a woman in additive manufacturing. And then we will have a short coffee break. Apologies if we cannot bring coffee to you, but we will give you some time at least to grab your own. But you can feel welcome to. We will leave the session open to connect and to network, nevertheless, during the coffee break. Then we will have a second slot for best practices in directed energy deposition, both with arc and laser-based. And in that slot, I'll pass the word to my colleague Ana Cardoso that will be moderating that session. Just some housekeeping, so we don't expect any fire alarms, and you are expected to interact and make a lot of questions. So this is an interactive event. We will not be making presentations in the beginning. It's a discussion, an open discussion, and we hope that you feel comfortable to engage and to put your own questions and give your own view on the questions that we will be asking to our speakers that I will be announcing shortly. So just some indications. So if you're not speaking or don't intend to interact, please mute yourself in the process so that we can manage things smoothly. And then if you want to make a question, raise your hand using this icon over here. Or if you're too shy to make a question out loud, don't hesitate to drop a line on the chat. We will be looking at it as well. So both options are available for you to interact with us. So we have with us today 3 ladies from 3 different sectors within additive manufacturing, representing research, education, and industry, which we believe are 3 very important pillars to deliver these processes and to implement them and to uptake them. So I'll pass the word to them very shortly. So we have Lexory from Lortec in Spain. We have Candice from the University of Sheffield in Sheffield. And we have Valeria Tirelli from Hydro. So I'll now pass the words to Lexory. So maybe you want to present yourself, just give a little bit of background of what you are doing about Lortec. Feel free. The floor is yours, Lexory.
Thank you, Rita. Thanks. So yes, as Rita said, my name is Lexory. I am a researcher in the Technological Center Lortec. Lortec is a private technological center located in the north of Spain, in the Basque Country, which is surrounded by many industry, mainly focused on metals. So our duties goes also mainly on welding and additive manufacturing. And about additive manufacturing, we have different technologies. We work with laser and powder, laser, and also of arc and wire, which is WAM. And I'm mainly work on that field, on welding, arc welding, and additive manufacturing with arc or WAM. And well, I'm working mainly on research, managing and participating in different projects. Ones of them are European, other nationals. And I am also part, or I take part sometimes in education, such as participation in a additive manufacturing master with the University of Mondragon. So I have a bit experience on that. And well, more or less, and this is my work.
Thank you, Lexuri. I'll now pass the word to Candice. Candice, can you tell us a little bit of what is your involvement in additive manufacturing, a little bit of what University of Sheffield is currently doing on that field?
Yeah, so I'm Candice. I admit I kind of stumbled into additive manufacturing through a lecture in my very final semester of my undergraduate degree. And somehow, a few, let's say, years later on, now I'm in Sheffield. So I lead a group of technical and research staff and students looking mainly at powdered polymer additive manufacturing. So kind of flying the flag for polymer processes a little bit. But I think because of how I kind of fell into this area, the education side of it is really important to me. So we have a dedicated module on our undergrad and master's courses specifically around additive manufacturing. And as part of that, we have the kind of taught stuff that you might imagine, but also projects in that area, sometimes, summer placements and internships. And so I guess I'm very keen to get more people to experience the area, have a bit of understanding of it. Because certainly when I came into the area, it was very difficult to find stuff out. So you didn't really know where to go if you thought this sounded really exciting. So I think the education side is something I'm very keen on. So yeah, a mix mainly of research and teaching and then some admin thrown in, but that's probably the least exciting bit to talk about.
Thank you, Candice, for the brief interview, for the brief introduction. I'll pass now the word to Valeria, that is representing today the industrial part of things. Valeria,
Yes.
In the same lines, would you be able to present yourself and some of the work that Hydro is doing in AM?
Yes, thank you, Rita. I'm very happy to be here with you, with this amazing lady. I'm the CEO of Hydro, Hydraulics and 3D Printing, an Italian SME based in the north part of Italy, not far from Milan. And the company was founded by my father almost 40 years ago in the hydraulics and mechanical fields. And a few years ago, we discovered additive manufacturing. At the beginning, it was for polymers, FDM technology, and we started with our printers to make tooling or prototypes. And the more and more we understood the technology, more we were fascinated by it, and we decided to invest in metal 3D printing. So now we have our internal department, laser power bed fusion technology. And we produce not only tooling, but also functional parts, mechanical parts and hydraulics like valve, manifold, or heat exchangers. And I can tell you that the title of the webinar is perfectly fitting with us because we experience a real transformation into the company since we introduced additive manufacturing. So not only we changed our mentality, the way how we approach the problem, the technical problems, but we really experience a complete transformation. So I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Thank you, Valeria. Thank you for your introduction. So just to inform all the participants how we will be moderating the session. So we have a couple of questions that we will have our speakers to answer. But if someone from the audience would like also to share their experiences on the matter, feel free to do so. So starting by the first question, I'll probably start by Lexury. So what inspires you the most in additive manufacturing? The possibilities, the people, or the unknown? So how would you answer this question, Lexury?
Yes, for me, I think it can be a mix of all of them. Yes. Actually, my inspiration had an evolution. So I would say that when I first heard the term additive manufacturing, I was working on powder metallurgy. I was doing my PhD studies there. And I thought on the many possibilities associated with AM, mainly to solve the limitation of the conventional processes. So I concretely remember the word no limit that was always around AM, and mainly I hear it associated to the design, which is normally the main constraint step due to the constraints of each process. Once I started working in AM, I realized how AM could be immersed and work together with other processes, optimizing the effort and obtaining the best advantages of each process to make possible new designs, for example. So in that case, AM did not work alone. It needed the experience of other people and professionals of different processes. And now I would say mainly the unknown is inspiring me. I've been witness of the increase of interest in the last 2 years in WAM concretely. And I consider that the possibilities are huge and yet unknown in different sectors. Also, research and development is making big developments in many ways and at high speed. And this can increase a lot the possibilities. So yes, I think it's a mix of all of them.
Okay, and what about you, Candice? Is it aligned with the Lexury experiences, or do you feel differently about these inspirational group of processes, let's say?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I probably agree with everything Lexury just said, and it's really, really difficult to split out one thing. I know when I first heard about 3D printing, or it was very much still rapid prototyping at the time, and for me at the time, it was the possibilities, right? It was like, wow. And I mean, the guy who gave the talk, really sold it, and he had kind of mini nanoscale things, and then he was talking about construction and everything else, and so at the time I was like, oh, this could really be applied lots of different areas. For me as a researcher, certainly the unknown part of it is good, and kind of, what you're doing now in terms of your research, but you don't know where you might be going with it because you don't know what you might discover. But I think overall, if I had to really pick one, I think it would definitely be the people. And, some of that is our students and how much they engage with things and the ideas that they come up with, and that kind of ability to have a discussion with them about where they see the industry. Some of it is just the people in the industry are generally, friendly and willing to share their expertise and kind of welcome new people in. And I think the final part of it for me is we're starting to draw a lot more people into the area. So people from backgrounds or applications or sectors that weren't traditionally interested in or engaged with additive. And so it might be sectors that are starting to use it, but it might also be people coming in from different areas and saying, I've got something really interesting I'm working on that could help us improve the industry. So I'm going to say the people above everything else, but with the other two things a very close second.
Okay, thank you, Candice. And for you, Valeria, you were mentioning that the company you are coming from was founded 40 years ago. 40 years ago, the market was very different. The matureness of additive manufacturing as well. So how did you start engaging with different approaches, different visions? Who was the responsible in the company for bringing this in?
Yes, exactly. We work in the same sector that is quite a conventional sector. So hydraulics and mechanicals, as you know, are really conservative, and we produce parts that have exactly the same shape as the last maybe 70 years. So when we started to think about additive manufacturing at the beginning, we were quite crazy to introduce this new technology inside this very conservative sector. And I can tell you that we were a kind of pioneer at the beginning, because even if we are a small company, at that time, so 7-8 years ago when we started, there were no other companies, especially big companies, were not thinking about additive as a possibility in the hydraulic sector. So we were quite crazy to introduce it and invest in this technology. But at the end, we receive a lot of good reply from the market. And one day, for example, I can tell you, I was amazed because when I was speaking with an engineer, a very conservative engineer of mechanics, and I show him one 3D printed hydraulic manifold, he started to cry, because he told me that he never think in his life that it was possible to produce this kind of parts. So this is what it's really amazing. So the people and the approach of different people in additive manufacturing. But I can tell you another point that is really inspiring me is the possibility to think in accord with nature. Because additive manufacturing starts from the principle to add material where it is needed. And this is exactly what we do when we produce a 3D printed part. So we work in accordance with nature, and we are able to make more sustainable parts. So this is another point that I really like from additive manufacturing.
Thank you, Valeria. I think it's good to see the different perspectives, but then the commonality between your points of inspiration. So the possibilities that we are all able to get from the flexibility of these sector, or apply to let's not talk as a sector, but of these enabler for different sectors, right? So I'll pass then to the next question. Do you foresee an increase of women in the AM field? Could AM be a technology that can boost these women participation in the scientific field? So maybe now we can start with Candice.
So, yeah, I've thought quite a lot about this, and I do think, especially with things like, I mean, a couple of us were invited here because of the Women in 3D Printing Network. So, I think there's good things like that that are encouraging people to kind of come together and learn more and share experiences. What I really think with additive is it's such a visual set of processes, right? You can really see the creations coming out, and so I think that encourages people perhaps more, and not just women, but maybe young people who are interested in getting into things. So I think that's a part of it. But I do think a lot comes back to this idea that we can apply it in so many different areas. So, maybe I'm not interested in, I'm trying not to offend anyone in the audience. Maybe I'm not interested in the automotive sector, but maybe I'm super interested in the medical sector, or maybe I'm interested in, just consumer goods type things, or maybe I'm just a hobbyist and I want to play with it. And so I think that idea that there's whatever you're interested in, there's something in additive manufacturing that you can get involved with, and also the diversity of jobs. So it might be, I want to really focus on working on the machines and developing them, or on materials, but maybe I'm more interested in selling and marketing the technology, or maybe I'm more interested in the business case. So what I think it does is it enables more people in general, whether that's more women or more people across the board, kind of find an area within the industry that they're really interested in. And I think if you get people's imagination and enthusiasm, that's the thing that can draw more people in. So I guess I think we have an opportunity to bring more people into manufacturing in general by having that kind of diversity of opportunities.
Yeah, that's a good point, definitely. Not only women, but young people that are interested, because it is a very attractive set of processes. And I think, yeah, as Valeria was saying, we can see things being built by adding material. I think that's exciting as well. For anyone, even for people that are not in the manufacturing area at all. So yeah, then I'll pass the word to Lexuri. If you could comment on this as well. You're muted, Lexuri.
Sorry. Yeah, mainly I agree with Candice. I also foresee an increase, mainly in general, because of the interest of this considerably new technology in general for young people. And I wanted to add that I think this kind of event, for example, and Women in AM platform can help in making women visible at this field and inspire younger students to start in it and focusing on women. Sometimes I heard that the field of bioengineering is every year the first option of students and many women. And for example, this field can work with additive manufacturing, which also work with biocompatible materials, and AM gives the possibility to personalization. So it's very keen to work in with bioengineering. So this is an example to show how additive manufacturing can be aligned with the contemporary interest of women.
Thank you, Lexuri. Actually, we have a specific question for you from Antonio on the chat. He's thanking all of the speakers for sharing the experience. And he would like to ask you, Lexuri, about the main courses, training, and relations, or whatever that has helped you to be an expert in additive manufacturing techniques, and that has raised you to the high-level position that you are. And he wants to share that he's also doing his doctoral thesis in additive manufacturing as well.
Okay. So, well, my studies were more focused on materials engineering. And then I started doing my PhD studies in powder metallurgy. So I have been working with metal powder, but in this case we used molds and a sintering process. At that time, I think there weren't the options that are starting now being or about additive manufacturing. Education is now making big diagnosis of the needs of additive manufacturing to implement and go together with the industry needs. But when I studied, it was quite far. So my PhD studies, I think, in powder metallurgy, give me or open me a door to start after it in additive manufacturing. And also I was lucky to be during summer at the University of Birmingham. And that was the first time I worked with additive manufacturing. I started with SLM. And after that, I started working in Lortec, where I still working with WAM. And yeah, well, here, for example, in Lortec, the first technology of additive manufacturing that was here was SLM, but after that we started working with DET laser and finally with ARC with ARC and wire. So that was my steps after this situation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lexuri.
Thanks.
Anyone from the audience would like to make any question regarding what we are discussing now? If not, I'll leave Valeria to answer this question as well. So do you think that these could be the technology that will boost the participation of women in industry?
Yes, I'm completely agree. Because as already said, I'm coming from a conventional manufacturing sector, while in additive manufacturing, I see many other women more than the conventional sector. And I think that this is really possible because it's a new technology, as already said, so we start at the same starting point with men. But of course, women has other skills like multi-skills. Women are already able to, manage different topics altogether. We are more flexible. Sometimes we can imagine the solution to the problems in a different way. So I think that women have something more to boost the technology. And as I see, there are many women, many ladies from the research point of view, from the university, but also in the industry. I started a few months ago as an ambassador of Women 3D Printing. So the association founded 6 years ago in US. Now there are a chapter in every part of the world. And I founded the first chapter in Italy, was last September. And each month we have a virtual meeting, and each time I discover more and more ladies working with 3D printing with great experience, great story. There are a lot of young ladies that founded a startup. They have a lot of ideas coming from different experience. So I think really that additive manufacturing is a new possibility for women to do business and to give some benefit to our life in general.
Thank you, Valeria. I would like to ask in the audience if we have some women from industry working in additive. If you're too shy, you can just raise your hands. If you are there, if you work with additive manufacturing in industry, any women or any men, because it's good also to have men's perspective on this different approach. I mean, as Valeria is saying, there are some sectors, very conventional sectors that usually were composed only by teams of men. How is it to be integrated in a team with both genders? Anyone from the audience would like to share an experience? Very shy audience, I have to say.
Why?
We are a lot. No? Okay, then if not, I'll pass to the next question. So this is a question to all of you. Maybe now we can start with Valeria for a change. So what would you say to inspire other women to start a career in additive manufacturing?
Yes, I'm really happy to say that it's a very good technology, and there are a lot of possibility to make real the idea that you have. I have in mind, for example, an Italian lady that moved a few years ago into the Netherlands to create her startup to repair the corals, so sea corals, with 3D printing. So she created a 3D printer. suitable for printing corals. So this is, for me, it's a really a crazy idea, but this is possible with additive manufacturing. So my suggestion is, if you have an idea, if you like to innovate and to create something that was not possible before, now probably could be possible with additive manufacturing. So don't hesitate and be involved in this amazing technology.
Katrina, you mentioned that you like this idea. Do you have any similar to share? So we have some engagement in the chat. Indeed, it's a very impressive way of using additive manufacturing.
No, I have nothing to add, only that it's an ingenious idea.
Thank you. Thank you for engaging.
I work in the learning and development element of, I'm working the education part of additive manufacturing, so that's what I'm involved in. So that's how I came into contact with additive manufacturing in the first place, which is since January of this year. So I've learned so much, and like you've all been saying, how generous people are helping. And I do work with a large cohort of men and women, you know, majority of men, but they've all been incredibly helpful and to educate me and help me in learning more and more about it. But yes, it's been a really big, interesting journey so far. I work with Irish Manufacturing Research, by the way.
I was going to ask that. So we have a good European coverage today, representing, I think, probably all European countries in our event. So then I'll pass the word to Lexari. So what would you say to inspire other women to start a career in additive?
Yeah, well, as I consider this is a mainly new technology, I think it's very inspiring to know that there is still a lot of work to do, many things to discover in technology, in applications, in different sectors. Also, as Valeria said, there is many women in additive manufacturing industry. So I think in this field, we started equally, women and men. So we don't need to start from the beginning. It's now the time. So I think that could be very inspiring.
Thank you, Lexari. Candice, some words to inspire other women to join?
I mean, clearly I agree with everything everyone's just said. I think I'm still 20 years after I first discovered 3D printing, I'm still as excited about it. And I think that says something when you can see people who've been doing something for so long and actually they still care. And if you talk to any of the people who've been in industry well before I was, they've still got that excitement and that enthusiasm. And I think that's a really good thing. And one thing I'd say to people actually is I think we're in a really nice time where if you're not sure whether you're interested, but you think it sounds like something you could be interested in, with all the social media and like all the stuff that's all over the internet and everything, I think there's a real opportunity for you to kind of find out loads of stuff before you kind of have to commit to something. You know, so it might just be following accounts on social media and seeing what people are posting about. It might be, you know, some of the industry magazines or email alerts to kind of see the things that are happening. And obviously, I mean, Valeria mentioned as well the Women in 3D Printing Network, but those kind of networks where you can attend events like this, whether it's ones that are more discussion based or some of the technical ones. And so I guess what I'd say to people who are thinking about it is just engage with all of that stuff. And it's fine if you want to come along to something and sit quietly in the audience and just listen to what people are saying. And then at some point, maybe you'll feel more comfortable engaging with the conversation. But I guess we've got now all of these opportunities to learn more. And that means that you can perhaps take away some of that fear of the unknown. I know when I started, it was kind of a bit of there was a master's course starting up in that area when I finished my undergrad degree. And that was kind of the only thing that I could really find at the time that was a way to explore it. And it was only a year, but it was still quite a big commitment to say, right, I'm just going to drop everything and sign up for this. So yeah, I guess a bit of exploration, you know, engaging with people on social media, and that can probably help you to identify the areas that you might be interested in.
Okay, thank you for the suggestion. So I don't know if we have someone from I asked about someone from the audience on industry, but anyone else from the research side that would like to share some experience in additive that has made an impact in deciding to take this path as a career? Anyone from the audience? No? Okay, so maybe I can ask a couple more questions to our speakers. So we have another one here. Yeah, so in your opinion, what is still to be done to increase women enrollment in technological education and training? Any of you? Maybe this is on the educational side, Candice?
So I think there's a lot there to do with, I want to say visibility, and partially it's visibility of women, or, you know, and you can extend that to anything, you know, different ethnicities, people with disabilities, all of this kind of thing. So I think there's a lot to be done for seeing people in those type of roles. And so that's why I think this type of thing is really important, right? To see more people like you, if you like, although it's a great simplification. And I think alongside that as well, there's also a need to show off the diversity of jobs that are available. So I think there's still a bit of this image of engineering, and in particularly manufacturing, being this big, loud, dirty thing. And for some people, that's exactly what they want, but it's not what everyone wants. So I think examples like, actually, you know, manufacturing can be the big dirty, you know, steel making or whatever, but it can also be the very small scale, intricate stuff, but it can also be applied in different areas. So I think for me, kind of showing off the range of jobs and saying, actually, there's a place for you in manufacturing and technology, even if you don't really like getting dirty and the stereotypical stuff. And so bringing people in that way, I think you have to show them that those jobs exist, and show them people doing those jobs successfully, to kind of perhaps trigger that imagination of, oh, I didn't realize manufacturing included these other aspects, or that I could do those things. So I think there's a lot there about role models, both in terms of diversity of people, but in terms of diversity of those jobs and backgrounds.
And do you think that there are in additive, I mean, if you have experienced that, if some of the works are more tendential for women, like, do you more often see women in design, or is it usually on the post-processing side? Do you see these kind of connections, or it is nothing that is, there are no tendency according to the gender?
Not from what I've seen. I mean, I'm a big believer in there's not jobs for girls and jobs for boys, right? But I think it's more to do with an industry as a whole. So as you have more women in the industry, and as you have more visibility of those women, perhaps more people come into the areas. But I certainly don't think, I mean, I've seen people in hugely technical roles who are women. I've seen people in more design focused roles, obviously research roles. I think we're also at a good time with things being perhaps slightly better in terms of the personal aspects of things. So I had a PhD student, Carla, who was an international student who also had a baby halfway through her PhD, and was still able to to get through that. So obviously I'm immensely proud of her for that. And I think, again, it's that kind of thing of, yeah, you can do any of these roles within the industry, and actually, you know, things like part-time working or flexibility and everything perhaps tie into that more, although not exclusively on the women's side. So I think overall you get that kind of perhaps a more comfortable environment or a more suitable environment for everyone to be able to engage more broadly.
Yeah, maybe a different question. Lexuri, what about your team? Is it mainly composed by women, by men? It's a mix. Do you see any tendency of the jobs or of the skills?
Well, yes, I would say we have a mix. It's not mainly formed by men or women. It's a good mix. And regarding the field that they work, it's true that, for example, if we think about technical people that is more oriented to robotics that we use for additive manufacturing, maybe in that field is mainly focused on men. That's true. And research, I would say that's where I see the mix. We are more or less equal, men and women. Yes, but I think the main point which is different is the use of the machines, like the robots that we use, for example, for WAM with the welding technologies. That is true that it's mainly done by men.
Okay, it's an interesting point. And Valeria, what about Hydro? Is it a balance between men and women? How is it going? Do you have older departments with more conventional technologies that are mostly composed by men, and the newest departments are composed by women? How is this distribution?
Yes, I'm a bit sad to say that we have a few women at the moment in the company, because as you know, we are coming from a conventional sector. So at the end, we have more technicians and engineers, male engineers. And a few years ago, when we created the AM department, we tried to hire people. But at that time, there were no ladies available with experience on additive manufacturing. But in general, it was really hard to find people with experience a few years ago because, okay, now additive manufacturing is more and more common. There are courses at the university and so on. But a few years ago, were quite, limited skills. So I hope to grow the company, so to hire more ladies in AM in the future, of course. But in general, I'm convinced that diversity can generate a great benefit in the company, in the thinking, in the way how we work. So I'm really open to have a diversity team. And but I'm also thinking when the other ladies were speaking about the young people, because this is really important to help young people to start to study additive manufacturing, but not only at the university level, but also from at the school, like children. For example, 2 years ago, I was invited by the school of my boy, is the primary school, to have a kind of little course on 3D printing. Of course, was for the youngest boys of 10 years. But I thought that it's really important to start as younger as possible, because it's a new mentality, and children are really open to the new technology. And then, so we decided also to have a 3D printer in a house, in our home, not only in the company. And my children start to 3D print a gift for their friends, or 3D print what they want to, only toys for the moment. But I think it's a good start for them.
Yeah, I would like to point out that TWF has currently a project, an educational project. It's a SUM, and we have a specific task and strategy dedicated for raising awareness of these technologies for young kids, not only students, but actually children. There's a raise awareness campaign dedicated for children, because we believe that if we start from a very young age to promoting the sector, promoting the technologies, as you were saying, kids are very open to receive new information. They are constantly learning, and they are like sponges. They absorb everything. So providing them with the knowledge, with the information right from young age may lead to more composed industry in a couple of years, with people interested in pursuing a career in the area, and having professionals qualified for the job. And also to point out that the SUM project is also developing curricula and qualifications to address the industry needs. Yes, Candice, you were raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love all this talk about kids, because one thing I've noticed is as well, kids are so open with those ideas, but also they kind of challenge without even deliberately challenging. And I know there's been times when I've been talking to groups of school kids, you know, maybe at an outreach event or something, and they'll ask a question like, why do you do it that way? And I'll go, because actually I don't know. And so I think there's something so open and excited about how they will naturally approach things, and they'll come out with questions, and you sometimes find yourself stood there as someone who's, you know, got 20 years in the industry going, I actually have never thought to question why we do that thing. And so I think sometimes we underestimate that ability of kids to just be, you know, they're small and they don't have huge amounts of world knowledge, but they have thoughts and they have imagination. And I think some of those ideas that they come out with, all those questions, can also really help us, as well as them learning stuff. It can actually help us to challenge the way we look at things. So I think the more we get kids involved, I love the fact that Valeria's got a 3D printer at home and the kids are playing with it. And I hope at some point, what I really hope there is they're going to come out with something that will then enable you to do something new at work, if you like. Just, you know, some comment they'll make or some question that kind of triggers that thinking.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't have any more questions prepared. I don't know if anyone from the audience had any engagement with kids and additive manufacturing that would like to share. Any event, any activity in your own kids' school? Because yeah, Lexury?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to add that I'm really hopeful about the STEAM education that Europe is pushing more and more, which tries to merge science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, and implicate students at very early ages. So these topics were very far away for youth a few years ago, and now this way of education STEAM brings the possibility to students to be closer than ever to this topic. So I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, thank you, Lexury. I agree. If we push, as Candice was saying, they can be very imaginative. They can be very creative. So as much as they are stimulated from a very early stage, in the end, it will be beneficial for everyone, for themselves, for the industry, for the community. So there are only positives in bringing these emergent technologies to very early stages of education.
Yeah,
Yeah,
also.
Yeah, go ahead, Lexi.
So, yeah, I wanted to highlight that it's very focused also on women trying to get mentors, mentors, to show references on the field. So that's also very important for children to see references that are also women.
Yeah, it's true. We have someone from the audience, Katrina. You have your hands raised.
Yes, I do, because we've actually in Irish manufacturing research, my colleague Isabel and I have worked together. But before I joined Irish manufacturing research, she had started to engage with secondary schools in County Meath, which is in the middle of Ireland, and basically the schools really embraced 3D, and they decided to run a competition between the schools, and the competition last week was judged, and the announcement was made through in Ireland, the teachers that teach technical subjects, there's a journal that they have every month. So we advertised in the journal to promote SAM and the education of children in secondary schools on 3D. So, and since then, what has happened is, and Keenan was involved in this as well, in the judging. I can see he's just coming through. Thanks, Keenan. And
Hi.
basically, the children just loved it, and they made some very interesting products, but they had never made a product using 3D. So it was a huge learning curve for them. And it was a really lovely, interesting way to engage. But I was just coming back to this journal that we have in Ireland. So if you teach in engineering, that area, there's actually a journal specific for teachers in that area, secondary school teachers. So we sourced that, and we actually advertised in that as well. So yeah, that's something we want to do in Irish manufacturing research. And so what we did was we've developed a position, an actual position in Irish manufacturing research for the education to engage and promote additive manufacturing specifically in schools and education. So we actually have developed a position within the organization, which has been filled by Isabel. So as of last week, it was announced that she's gone into that position. So I'll be working quite a lot with her, helping. And obviously I do the training, as in the commercial or the industrial training side of it as well, because I'm a learning and development professional. But it's been very interesting.
Thank you for sharing, Katrina.
Thank you.
So then I'll also announce some webinars that we have planned for the SAM project. So as I was saying, and you can see on the chat as well. So we have Sesimo and EWF commenting the plan and the Raise Awareness campaign, which is the Tech for Kids activities. And we will have a webinar for showcasing the strategy that is being developed in the SAM project for skills in additive manufacturing. So these webinars aim to showcase the identification we have made so far, and also some validation. So you are all welcome to join. So the date is already booked, is the 7th. It will be on the 7th of July. We don't have a registration platform now, but we will have one soon. So just engage on the SAM website, and if you follow us also on LinkedIn, EWF LinkedIn, you can get to know the updates on this event. So I would like to thank to the speakers for the very, very valuable input, and I think very pleasant discussion on the matter. At least for me personally, it was very enriching. Thank you. And we now have a 15-minute coffee break. I would also like to thank the audience. Although a very shy audience, we will have a second slot for you to feel more comfortable and engaging. So we will come back in 15 minutes. So at 10:45 to start our second slot that will be dedicated to directed energy deposition, a more technical session. But you are all free to keep connected and to ask your questions to our experts just after the break. So thank you a lot, Valeria, Lexury, and Candice. A special thanks to you for joining. It was a pleasure to meet you, and we hope we can keep engaged and have the collaborations going. So thank you, and we see all of you in a short while.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.